Want to buy land and build a barndominium? If you haven't heard of that type of home before, it means putting up a metal shop and building out a living space, and all are part of the building. There are some great examples of this around Missouri, and they have been retaining their property value well on resale. So here are some steps to get you started on building a barndominium. Number one, call zoning. To see how feasible this is, call the zoning department for the county or city where you're considering building. Find out what they require and what they allow. Oftentimes people tell me they would like to buy 1 or 2 acres of land and put up a shop and build a house on the cheap. However, in some counties in Missouri, you can't get a septic permit unless you have 3 or sometimes 5 acres, depending on the county. If they won't give you a septic permit, they usually won't let you build a house. Also, many counties or cities restrict the type of home that they allow you to build, or they have minimum square footage requirements. So if you want to build a tiny house or put in a mobile home, you may not be allowed to do it in some locations. So not to discourage you, but I want you to know that there are unbuildable lots for sale in Missouri. I have talked to zoning officials who report having people in tears in their office because they found out too late that the site they bought to build their new home on could not be used for much more than camping or cutting hay. The good news is there are many pieces of ground that make a great site for building a barndominium. I have talked to county zoning offices in major metro areas, and they will allow them as long as they meet certain standards. There have been some very high-end barndominiums that have built and been resold in the luxury home price range near Kansas City. But what if you want to put up a tiny 1-bedroom living space and live off-grid with a composting toilet? Well, some rural Missouri counties have little to no requirements for new construction. So Missouri is a great place to find a home site for the barndominium of your dreams, whatever that dream looks like to you. But it is very important that you know what you're allowed to build, and it all depends on where you decide to build. So number one is start with zoning. Number 2, check for covenants, conditions, and restrictions. Country subdivisions of a few acres for each home site are popular in Missouri. Those neighborhoods often have established rules and restrictions on what you can build there. I checked with 2 different county subdivisions for a buyer this last week, and neither would allow a barndominium. But lots of land is available outside of country subdivisions. It's just an important question to ask when you are looking at lots for sale. Number 3, utility availability. I can think of 2 parcels of land I have explored for buyers where getting access to rural water made the land almost worthless in the opinion of my buyers. Running a water line for 2 miles and under a creek is expensive. Make sure you know the cost of getting water, electricity, and septic service on that site. It can be tens of thousands of dollars each, or more than $100K total if some of those systems are not easy to develop on a particular property. A house built on the rock sounds cool, but I visited 2 Missouri acreages where there was no way to get water or sewer to that property. They built a home on a rock but had tanks to haul water in and sewage out. That can be very expensive and not at all desired. It's also not typical, but land buyers should never assume utilities are available or the cost will be reasonable, so always check it out. Number 4 is access. Landlocked parcels are not worth much because you can't get to it. There are a few properties like this usually available at county tax sales. They're pretty much worthless to anyone except for maybe an adjoining neighbor. Some properties don't have good road access, but a neighbor has granted an easement for a driveway, and that works. But sometimes access to the site is more about where you would place the house and on what part of land that's buildable. I showed one 70-acre property where the only suitable site for building a home was in the far back corner, a half a mile from the highway. The rest of the property was in a floodplain. It would have required a road all the way to the back of the property, plus building a bridge over a small river. Needless to say, most home buyers don't have a budget the size of the Missouri Department of Transportation, or MoDOT if you haven't lived in Missouri yet. So that site was definitely out. Number 5, count the cost. Is a barndominium going to work for your budget and your financing needs? It is good to find out early before you spend a lot of time making plans. There are 3 major costs to consider when building a barndominium. First is the land. Check for the price of land in your area that you're considering. A lot of times people are shocked at how much a few acres can cost, especially given the surging interest in self-sustainable living the last few years. If you're not seeing land for sale in the price range that you're seeking, it may be those parcels are not available for the price you're searching. Ask a realtor what the average cost of an acre has been in the area for the last year. It will do you no good waiting for 20 acres to come up for $25,000 if the average price of land in the area is running at $15,000 an acre. Second is the cost of utilities. As we mentioned before, running utilities to a property can be significant. Third is the cost of the building. Most barndominium owners have a shell put up by a barndominium company or a Morton building company. Then they hire a general contractor or they hire tradespeople themselves to complete the inside of the home. If you plan to do that, the cost of the shell is only a fraction of the final cost. So you'll need to get quotes for having the interior finished by a general contractor or all the tradespeople you plan to hire by yourself to get a clear picture of what building will cost you. Usually building a new home is the most expensive home that you can buy. In Northwest Missouri, the last year, the average cost of new construction was $200,000 more than the average cost of a home. If you want to build it yourself, you could save money, but you do need to get a detailed list of the cost, no matter how you plan to build, before you consider making an offer on a land for a home site. 6, review financing options. If you buy an existing home, you may be able to buy for no money down with a USDA loan if you qualify, or a VA loan, or 3 to 5% down is common with many mortgage types. But if you buy land and plan to build, you often need to pay 25% or more as a down payment for just the land. Qualifying for new construction loans can be a bit trickier as well, and most don't allow you to lock the interest rate until the home is complete. Not many lenders in Missouri offer loans on burial ground anymore, but I do know of a few. Either way, it is important to see if the financial aspect of building makes sense for you early in the process. Talking to a banker or mortgage broker can solve that piece of the puzzle quickly and give you more information on building a barndominium if it's right for you. I'm Tabitha Elliott, a Missouri realtor and acreage specialist. I also worked as a new home sales rep for a builder in the past and have helped several people build a home. If you have questions or would like assistance, a link to my contact info is in the description below. I hope this video helped you be more of an expert about finding and buying a site for your future home.